Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming. It's been a pretty exciting few weeks in the crypto blockchain space, and we're all holding on for the ride to come in 2018. I want to rest though first. And we've got our new segment, which is Shane Glenn, who's doing a crypto news broadcast. So I'm going to pass it over to Shane.
All right, well, welcome everybody. This is the FinTech Silicon Valley Crypto News. I'm your host, Shane Glenn. This week we're coming to you live from the Blockchain Technology Meetup at Shepard Mullins' office in Palo Alto. We want to give a special thanks to Shepard Mullins for being a longtime supporter of FinTech Silicon Valley and for giving us, locations like this to do our meetings. So thank you. Our news topics for this week are XBT breaks the CBOE, big news day for the SEC, and the revenge of Litecoin. So starting off with the Chicago Board Options Exchange, started listing Bitcoin futures Sunday afternoon under the XBT ticker. Of course, there was so much interest into it. As soon as they went live, their website crashed. They got it back up and running, and it looks like it's only been a couple days, but trading has settled out to the single-digit thousands of contracts per day in US dollars. That's about $50 million per day of contracts being written. And so we have futures now. So what does this mean? On the plus side, it does tend to show a maturation of Bitcoin as an asset and cryptocurrencies as an asset class, which is great. The fact that we have futures means that there are a bunch of institutional participants who may have previously not been willing to or may have been prevented from making direct purchases in cryptocurrencies, but now they can get exposure to the asset class through futures, which is great. Now that also that we have a single derivative, this could also lead to the introduction of other cryptocurrency-based derivatives. The sort of holy grail of this area is the cryptocurrency ETF, and maybe we'll see some movement on that. Now, to sort of bring things back down to reality, it is only $50 million a day of volume, which is like a fraction of a percent of the total global volume in Bitcoin being traded. So the prices aren't really a good predictor of sort of actual future interest just because the trading volumes are so low. But it's only been live for 3 days, so stay tuned, the volumes could go up. In regulatory news, which is becoming kind of a regular thing on this segment, last week we discussed the SEC's cyber unit had their first prosecution. That was Thursday. Today is Tuesday, and they had their second action that took place yesterday, which was against a company called Munchie and their initial coin offering. This is very much unlike Plexcoin, which is the first action that happened last week. Munchie had appearances of being much more of a regular, real company. They had a token, they had a white paper, it all sort of made sense. They claimed that they had some legal sign-off, but they didn't really have any documentation behind it. And under the announcement that the SEC made, there was a voluntary agreement that Munchie was going to halt their ICO and they were going to return all the money that they had raised so far. Now separately, on the same day, this was yesterday, the SEC chairman, Jay Clayton, issued a statement on cryptocurrencies in general. There's a lot in there. People are interested in this space. I definitely recommend everyone go to the SEC website and read it. But broadly speaking, he said that cryptocurrencies are a new, interesting way of doing fundraising, and that he wants to encourage that. But he also said that the SEC rules still apply, even in the cryptocurrency space, and that people are going to need to start spending more attention to existing regulations and trying to figure out how to fit what they're trying to do into the existing framework. And finally, we can't sign off without discussing Litecoin. Litecoin has had a huge rise in their price over the last couple of days. They're up 400% on the week. They were at one point up 100% in the last 24 hours. On Coinbase, the price almost hit $400. I think right now, some people have their phones out, it's down around $350, $375, something like that. Anybody have a number for me? No, no one has a number.
329.
329, there you go. A little bit back down to reality. We always say it's almost impossible to predict what's causing these price rises. But two potential things. One are that some retailers, Steam most notably, have stopped accepting Bitcoin transactions because the transaction fees are so high and clearance is taking such a long time. And so there's a perception that some of those retailers may be moving away from Bitcoin and onto Litecoin. And the other rumor that I've heard is that it's related to the quote Coinbase effect, which is that there have been millions of people signing up for Coinbase accounts in the United States in the last few months, and that all of those people have finally cleared KYC, and now they're able to buy, and they go online, Litecoin's the cheapest thing, and so they buy some Litecoin. Anyway, I just want to thank you all, and we'll go on and have a little comments.
Thanks, Shane. So we couldn't have got through this year except for Shepard Mullen. We're incredibly grateful for the support, and thank you, Rob. And tonight we've got Bill Lambert, who's a patent attorney here, who's been hosting tonight. So he's just going to give you a few words.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for attending. And I've attended a few of these events, and one thing I've really been impressed with is the enthusiasm that everybody has and sort of the zeal for this field. I know almost nothing about FinTech, and I'm hoping by osmosis I'll learn something. But I just wanted to share something with you. Last week I was got home late. All the NBA games were over, and so I was flipping through the channels, got to ESPN, and went to SportsCenter and was looking at the highlights of the basketball games. And they were showing three-point shots and full-court passes. But one guy came up, about ready to slam a dunk into the basket. Somebody came up and blocked it, and the announcer goes, "Wow, did you see that guy blockchain that ball?" Now I didn't get the connection, and I don't know if the announcer knew what he was talking about, but maybe some of you guys could explain it.
Thanks so much, Bill. So now let's just get on to what you're all here for, and we've got an incredible panel tonight, so I'm going to pass it over to Daniel, and Daniel will get everyone to introduce themselves. Thank you.
You would think that to blockchain a ball would mean to distribute it evenly. I would think. I don't know. Okay, making sure this thing on. Okay, good evening. My name is Daniel Kari. I'm CEO and co-founder of a company called Pactum. We do financial services for cryptocurrency. What does that mean? There's a lot of larger investors that need assistance either buying or selling cryptocurrency, converting cryptocurrency. There's also a lot of cryptocurrency stakeholders that need help with risk, with hedging strategies and investment strategies, and so that's what we do. How many of you invest in cryptocurrencies? How many of you invest in ICOs? It's about the same amount, okay. Well, I'm hoping we have a panel here that's full of zest and excitement, as our friend from Shepard Mullen suggested. So it's going to be best if I just let these panelists go ahead and introduce themselves, because they're going to do a better job than me. So I'll let Sean go ahead.
Thanks very much. Evening, everyone. My name is Sean Bennett. I'm CTO of Stronghold, an asset management platform. We're targeting crypto first and then moving back into traditional assets. I'm fairly new to this part of the world. I've been here just for 2 weeks. Previously, I worked as a blockchain consultant in Melbourne, Australia, and Sydney, deploying smart contract and distributed ledger technologies into financial services and supply chain. And previous to that, 2013-14, I was one of the early players moving fiat money around on distributed ledger technologies like Ripple and Stellar, New Zealand, where financial services licenses were a little bit easier then. Of course, they've changed since.
My name is Larry Lee, founding partner of Untitled Chapter. My office is right down the University Avenue. We're about a $100 million company fund, and we invest in 2 crypto blockchain companies 4 years ago. One is called Streamlab, and their system is called Definity. Heard of that. And also the other one is a school chain, another technology company on blockchain. So we also invest in about 4 pre-ICO in the last year or so. One of them is OnScope. It's doing well so far. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, so we'll talk about that later.
I'm Jack Saba, managing partner of Day One Investments. We're sector agnostic, blockchain specific, seed and Series A venture fund, and CEO of Day One Consulting. Day One Consulting has worked with governments and international development groups to help bring this technology into emerging markets, and now shifting the focus to helping initial coin offering companies, ICO companies, go from really quality companies to something that's unequivocally investable. So that's a new avenue that we're going to be pursuing soon.
Great, my name is Brendan Wales. I'm an early stage venture capitalist at e.ventures. We have about $1 billion under management, investing out of a $140 million fund now. We made our first Bitcoin investment about 5 years ago in an early exchange called TradeHill, which at one point was the second largest exchange in the world. And now we're digging in and trying to figure out our strategy from a distributed app standpoint, which is what we find is most interesting.
Hi, my name is Alex Bessonov. I'm a CEO and founder of a company called BitClave. We are an ICO company. We just finished our ICO last week. And now we're focused on building the product and also really trying to disrupt the industry of search, which is the focus of our company.
Hello, my name is Chen Stu. I'm the founding partner of the CoFounder ecosystem. Why I call it CoFounder ecosystem? Because we have a crypto fund, also we have media, and we also provide services for projects. We might help the VC projects go to the Asian market. Also, we help Asian projects to international expansion. So basically, we all focus on blockchain exclusively. We invested a bunch of ICOs, including the Larry mentioned Definity, and also Raiden Network and Filecoin, and a personal in crypto space since early this year, 2016. Thank you.
Let's start all the way down with you, Chance, because you already have the mic. So as founders and investors in blockchain, what is let's just identify one thing that makes you excited about this technology.
I think the most exciting thing is I just finished actually to talk with a big VC firm to raise a effort in 7 years old. I think for as a new fund manager, I really see kind of like a new opportunity for us to have a community think about how the world will work in the next 5 years. And the biggest motivation for me to get into space because I thought potential to have a financial service provide to millions, billions of people like right now is outside of the finance service. That's the biggest motivation for me and exciting things.
Alex?
Same question?
Same question for everybody.
Okay. So for me, I guess the excitement is really in the area of applications and how blockchain is used. We, as an ICO company, we see a lot of potential to disrupt big guys. In our case, it's Google, Facebook, and we are looking into really the way how the technology, the decentralized storage and access to so many power outside of one data center is changing the world. I think the real excitement is a few years down the road. We think that the scalability is a serious issue, and when we look into blockchain as a upcoming technology, and so that's really the most interesting piece for me, and I guess we'll see how things are going to be developed in the future.
Yeah, I think there's two things. For one, ICOs in particular, they make it really easy to align economic interests, right? Never before has it been easier to provide somebody with something that can have huge value if they participate within that network. And with that, there's also the opportunity to create businesses that have never been done before, right? So what we look for are huge business model innovations, largely driven by the network, right? So let's just give, Alex's company actually does this really well, right? So he allows people to discover one of his verticals, real estate. And so historically there is another company that sits in between and charges one of the network participants, either a real estate agent or maybe a mortgage broker. But now you have this network through a cryptocurrency, and the network participants are all given, they're passing around the currency, and the more people that use the currency, the value of the currency goes up. Right? And so those are the types of things that we're really excited about.
Yeah, really just going to kind of iterate what you were talking about. One of the things that I'm really excited about is the fact that I feel like this technology is bringing back or opening up the opportunity for true innovation. There were a lot of problems that people said there's too much cost, too much to lack of trust, or there's just not an opportunity to try to solve these problems. And I think that this technology is going to enable new innovative solutions, and the way that enterprises start leveraging that, I think, is really exciting. And then I have to echo what you were saying about coin offerings. I think that it's incredibly interesting how you can start to realign the interest of the people participating in a given network. You know, the Brave is a great example of the way that you can realign the interest of advertisers, publishers, and users. So these tokens have an opportunity to capture value that was not able to be captured before.
It is a once-in-a-life opportunity. So I heard my daughter in Princeton to drop out of her school. You either in 1 year make a lot of money or lose a lot of money, which is a quite experience. And basically, it fundamentally changes the social fabric, the social status, and socialization. So it's a huge opportunity for everyone, especially the newcomers. So I'm so excited and so happy for the young people in this country, around the world, because this will really change the social status and everything else.
Interesting. I actually dropped out of medical school when Bitcoin came around. I thought this is the future. Every day I'm more dedicated, much to my parents' delight. I'm really excited. Pounding the pavement in the cities, you know, even over Australia. Businesses from all industries, how interested they are to try and learn and become educated about blockchain. They're struggling. There's a lot of work to be done, but I find that fantastic, how much interest there is from people from all walks of life.
Yo, you're stuck with that mic, and so you're gonna get the next question around about getting the opportunity to listen to everybody else. I really enjoyed this news update thing. This is the first panel I've ever moderated where there was a news update. So yesterday, when I looked at the prices, Litecoin was at $222. Now it's at $329. So I guess what I want to ask is, are these like heightened prices? Is this good for the industry, or is it getting investors coming in who might not know or are sophisticated enough to realize that we're approaching kind of bubble levels to some degree?
Interesting. So I think the panel will have some interesting foresight into if they think it's good or not. But in terms of, you know, those people out on the street have the payment, you know, in your Ubers and your hairdressers, the people from the street talking about it, I find that really scary, right? And we see Coinbase recently put out an email advising, you know, please invest responsibly. And I'm really worried that those people will end up being the bank holders whenever that bubble does burst.
I feel like there's another story to that email that we don't know about also, you know what I mean? Like something triggered that email. Anyways, I don't mean to, but continue, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just, you know, is there something happening in the background? We wouldn't know. And the unsophisticated people throwing, you know, too much money into it. I've heard of people around me who are, you know, maxing out their credit card limits because they've heard good stories of people who have previously done that, right? 5, 10, 20,000. This is, you know, life savings to some people. So that's my major concern.
Greed is good. Silicon Valley bubble is good. It's used to be an 80-20 rule. Now it's a 5-95 rule. Basically, 5% of people make money, 95% of people make money. That's the case. In year 2000, that happened once, but this time will be even more. But that's the beauty of Silicon Valley, right? We put a lot of money together and trained a lot of new engineers, and most of the companies died, and very few companies survived, and they get all the talent. And most of the investors didn't make money, but very few investors, because they recognize the best team doesn't make a lot of money. So this same thing will happen very soon. So bubble is good, greed is good.
I think it's incredible. It's amazing that so many people are starting to find out about it and get into it. I mean, there's an incredible shortage of talent in the space right now, both on the business development side and the technical talent. So if this starts accelerating people, starts creating momentum and people start diving into it more, I think that's amazing. I'm just concerned about it happening around the time the futures are starting to be traded. I think that with institutional money coming in and very sophisticated investors in a small market where it is feasibly manipulated, I think a lot of unsophisticated investors that are running in right now are going to be left holding the bag, which is unfortunate because that's going to create a bit of fear as people start to move forward. So it's two-sided. I wish that the futures trading wasn't happening just yet. I wish we had more adoption, possibly a few more countries accepting it as currency before this happened. But again, it's really exciting that now my entire family knows about this stuff. Now they all open up their wallets, they're starting to get interested and start to learn a little bit more. But concerned about the futures trading as well as the increased momentum we have right now.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I wrote a blog post about how I think it's too early.
I read it from you actually. I stole that right now.
I think it's crazy. No one knows how to price these things. But I think that it is risky and people are going to lose a lot of money. But it takes a long time to put a lot of money into Coinbase too. I mean, it takes like 5 weeks before you can really spend $10,000. So you've got to really spend time for it. But I think every time a new wallet is created and people start to understand what a public and private key is, and they start moving money around without having to worry about any intermediary, that's a magical feeling, and people aren't going to go back. Right? So even if things start falling apart, someone's going to come back up, and it's going to whether it be Bitcoin or somebody else, right? So I feel fantastic about it, and people are going to lose money, absolutely, but there will be more money gained in the long run, for sure, I think.
I actually wanted to address 2 points. One was Uber drivers talking about Bitcoin. I actually think that happened probably last year. I mean, maybe it's my luck, but pretty much every Uber driver that drove me knew about Bitcoin and blockchain, and some of them actually went into really deep discussions about it. So I think that's the nature of Silicon Valley. What I think I see this year, and maybe kind of towards the end of the year, I see a lot of meetups and a lot of meetings outside of Silicon Valley. And during our crowdfunding, we went to many places, China, Korea, Japan. Everywhere you see crowds of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people talking about blockchain and Bitcoin. I've seen some pictures from Ukraine, from Russia, where you would have thousands of people just gathered in the room talking about the technology. So I think what we see here in the Valley is really, it's a beginning, and it's propagating very rapidly. And I think this is one of these technologies that is actually has a chance to reach out to every single country in the world. And I didn't talk about Africa. I mean, I had so many calls with Africa, and I think everywhere in India, there's so many blockchain developers, so many people talking about this. So there is a bubble, yes, and I don't know, it's probably good, but I think it's developing. It's very fast growing industry, and it's really amazing times right now.
So I always encourage people not just paying attention to the price. We know right now the major media, right? They actually just know the price. They didn't dig into what the technology is. I think it's good. Like the high price draw the mass attention to this whole industry. It's good for the industry. But I think we need more print media and more folks in the space to let people pay more attention to the technology itself, not just the price. And so I believe actually the blockchain technology will probably first take off not in the staking mining. Actually, it's probably in the developing countries. Like today, I talked with a team RSK based in Argentina. So those areas actually, because their currency is kind of like, people don't trust their currency. So actually, they're perfect to accept the Ethereum or Bitcoin. They really make real use case for their society and really improve people's life. And so I think it still takes some time for you. Right now, a lot of people know Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. It's still actually lots of big other coins, really interesting. If we pay attention to the technology itself, you will find actually it's not just currency, it's way more beyond that.
I'd be remiss if we didn't discuss the statement made by the SEC yesterday. You guys have any thoughts on that after reading it over? I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Cam.
Which part?
Well, it was about ICOs in particular.
I think American actually is very strict in terms of the ICOs. So we saw lots of projects, they actually moving out of the US. They're based in US maybe, but actually they put their entity in Cayman, in Singapore, in Japan. It's really interesting to see how SEC gonna do afterwards. I feel like a government like Singapore and Japan really trying to catch this big technology wave. They kind of like lose a little bit train of the past, like the mobile internet thing. So right now they really try hard to catch the blockchain thing. I think a lot, every people just pay attention to the SEC, their moves. For me, I'm an immigrant. I'm right now not in the American. So I think definitely will pay attention to SEC rules, but we have, because this space is moving so fast, we have to move fast too based on the market.
Well, I think that it's really good that they're starting to look more and more details into ICO. And from what I read yesterday, it's kind of a mixed message. You clearly see that the SEC chairman thinks about regulations, how we can make sure that there is some structure to the ICO process. On the other hand, there's a clear acknowledgement of the fact that this is a fast-growing phenomenon and it's a positive phenomenon. So, from my point of view, I'm looking for regulations. I'm definitely very, very interested in seeing how it will evolve, especially because we are in the process right now, and we just, we try to do everything we can to make sure that we are compliant. And I wish the government would move faster. Enforcement, yes, but also on the clear message and trying to catch up with Singapore and Switzerland and others that are moving forward. And if you look at China and Japan and Korea, they're all moving faster, I think, than the SEC at this point. And so, I think it was a good message, and I'm glad there is some news coming almost every day now. I think it's a very positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was pretty happy that they weren't banning ICOs, right? So, I mean, that could have been, that's the worst case scenario, and he didn't say that, right? I think basically what he was saying, though, is if it looks like a security and it walks like a security, it's a security, right? And I think they're going to be really firm with everybody who's ICOing, and then over time it'll become more clear what a utility token is and what a securitized token is, and everybody will know, and then they'll have rules to follow, and I think everybody will be fine. And I'm happy that he didn't release a statement by the end of the year. I think that's a big success.
I loved it. It was cautiously optimistic. There's a lot of government, or not a lot of governments, but you can look at China and South Korea as jurisdictions that shut it down because they didn't understand it. And they'll bring it up online later on, which provides an opportunity for other smaller markets, like you were saying, to create regulations that support it. But at the end of the day, we are a massive country, and they need to move responsibly. They're not stifling it. They acknowledge that it's a fundamentally new way of raising capital for early stage companies and growth stage companies, which I think is really excited about that now. Everyday individuals have access to these companies much earlier than the public markets. It's really exciting, but you need consumer protection, and there's a lot of discrepancy between the sophistication of investors that are coming in and the quality of companies that are here right now, and there's a lot of people that are going to try to take advantage of the phenomenon. And their position is, this is amazing, this is great, let's first take in and get the lessons learned before we regulate it out of existence or into a position where it can be something that benefits the country and the entrepreneurs of this country. So really excited about their tone and their message.
Yeah, it is a very positive step. So in the past few months, we did see quite a few teams that doing ICO which were not very responsible. And they're this is not tolerable. So yes, the government needs to step in and do the work.
I'm always glad to see the regulator being open to conversation, right at the bottom of the thing. Come and contact us, have a talk, have a discussion about it. And so I've heard that they are quite willing to have a talk, and the same is true as Australia with our regulator there. Instead of just blanket banning it, as everyone said, right? And it smells like a security, walks like a security. In New Zealand, they said basically if this doesn't walk like a security, doesn't look like a security, doesn't have any security-like features, but it's an ICO, it's a security, right? So that's the no effort version, I suppose.
So everybody's focused on, I guess, the cryptocurrency aspect of these markets just because of the price, right? Is there a way to separate blockchain from Bitcoin, so to speak? Are there blockchain projects that don't have tokens or cryptocurrency that are exciting? Is that something that's feasible?
I guess it depends what you mean by exciting. So I think there are a lot of projects out there, particularly in less glamorous parts of the world, where there are real business cases and problems being solved by blockchain technologies. You just won't hear about them. They don't need anyone to hear about them. They're delivering value. They're cutting down on administrative tasks. That they save a lot of money. Value's being delivered. They don't need to tell their customers. They might end up in some IEMs for some investment material, but besides that, no one really needs to know. So for a lot of projects, that's exciting, and no one really needs to know about it.
Yeah, 4 years ago we invested two companies. One is of course Infinity, another one is called School Chain. And that company, they never want to do ICO because they are using the technology blockchain to trace the product and the good. And so now they are working with Boeing and GE and Airbus to trace, to help government enforce the export, how to enforce the quantity of the export. Suppose if the US only limit the Boeing to export like 100 aircraft to Iran, and then they use blockchain technology to make sure there's only 100 aircraft over there, not other countries buy from French and then send to Iran. So they use the blockchain to trace those information and those export products. So yeah, ask them why don't you do ICO because tons of money? We don't need to. We work with government really well. We don't want to mess up the trust. So I don't think we'll ever do ICO.
I think one of the issues with only talking about the prices of these ICOs is you're ignoring the fact that these startups are just startups. A lot of them don't have a product that they've launched, and so there's a huge discrepancy between the speculative value of what the coin's trading at and the underlying value of what's being developed. So I think that that's an issue that people need to start looking at these companies as startups and analyzing what the risks are involved in participating in the fundamentals of what they're building. Second part of this is, yeah, there are a lot of really exciting companies that don't need a token. At the end of the day, the blockchain is just a tool to solve issues. And so depending on what you're building, you should be choosing the technology stack that best suits the issue that you're addressing. So I think that there's different types of blockchain, public permission, private permissioned, and you should be using what is best suited for the issue that you're addressing. And I think that there are a lot of companies that are forcing a token into their solution just so that they can do an ICO and fundraise that way, which I think is detrimental to both the ecosystem and your company in general. I think you're placing focus where it doesn't need to be placed. So I think there are exciting opportunities without tokens and some opportunities where tokens are not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people can describe the blockchain as just a new type of database architecture, right, or technology. But for us as venture capital investors, we're trying to find the biggest companies on the planet, right? And those are going to come in the form of utility tokens and distributed applications because of the fact that these type of applications require no margin. And so they will have the best pricing, will be the most attractive to the network participants. And Bitcoin is a really good example of a distributed banking kind of money system that has no margin. Right, and so you can just see now that is going to be an enormous kind of entity, right? And we'll see the same thing across many verticals going forward, across search and advertising, everything you can really imagine, where you can reduce the margin by having network participants provide value.
I think that blockchain really looks, for me, blockchain is about not just distributed database, but also distributed computing. It's a way to share multiple resources across the globe and do specific calculations that were impossible before that. And so I think there is definitely a potential for blockchain projects that don't have tokens and they're unrelated. And I think these projects existed before blockchain, before Bitcoin, and it's there's a lot of distributed computing projects that were out there before. I think what we're talking here is more about the fact that this recent phenomenon of ICOs, where people start to come up with ideas of marrying this token and the computing powers together. And I think that's where the most interesting projects are coming because they have big goals and they are potential disruptors. So for me, I think that while blockchain and Bitcoin are not really connected at some degree in technology, level, I think that what we see now and what we'll see probably next 5-10 years is that tokens will dominate the blockchain and as the technology will grow, blockchain technology will grow at the same time.
So the way I look at it is different. So actually right now lots of incoming tokens, they're not like raising public sales. They're like just private sale and more like a traditional venture round, like raise private sale and close and go to exchanges directly. They just pass the public sale, I think because of the compliance issues. And the second, I'm a pretty big fan of the tokenization, because I think it is solve a big problem of the traditional venture capital, and you have the very good liquidity, and right now, and also the biggest difference is right now, think about if you wanna like about projects, you wanna contribute it. For traditional equity, you have to get hired, right? Get a share, then you get a profit from it. But right now, if I like BitClave, right, I just help them and maybe help them every aspect and just buy their tokens and hold. Then that's like a very different model than the traditional equity round. I thought that's gonna be the future of the organization, tokenization. But definitely we saw lots of blockchain projects, very good projects, and not issue any tokens, like the wallet, right? Like the MyEther wallet and the top one token and exchanges, their equities. But we as our fund focus on like the tokens, we have some concerns because for equities you have to wait for like 7 years. It's like compared to tokens, you are just feel very concerned. And also like right now, the probably top one crypto funds in the world, blockchain, they also only invest in tokens.
I want to allow enough time for a couple of questions, so let's cap this off with what do you expect to see in blockchain at this time, 2018?
You mean 2018 January?
2018 December.
Okay, that's way too far. So blockchain space actually is really changing tremendous. Like 2 months ago, I think like application level is way too far. I think it's too early, so we're only looking at the infrastructure level projects. But recently, I looked at some like application, especially like content platform. They are like get lots of attention and users, and also the CryptoKitty things, right? That's the first adapt. That's actually a milestone in this whole industry. That's the first popular applications. It's just 2 months change my mind, like because the space just moves so fast. So if you ask me like December, oh my God, it's I think in blockchain 1 year, it's gonna be like in the normal, it's like 5 years probably. So if I think in 1 year, we're probably gonna see a lot of more and more public chains coming up, not just Ethereum or others. We say like Divinity and also lots of like EOS, whatever. So lots of like public chain, I think it's gonna coming out. It's gonna compete each other to see which one is better. Because right now Ethereum, because the CryptoKitty thing, it says Ethereum actually is like very weak. Just one dApp, it's sucked. Like I spent like probably 3 hours to send my Ether in that day because the Kitty, just one dApp. Can you imagine like 100,000 dApp built on top of Ethereum? So I thought lots of potentials and opportunities here, and will come to lots of great developers come to the space and compete with them.
It's a question of what are we going to see or what we want to see.
What do you expect?
What I expect. I expect that, so I'm definitely looking forward for one of the ICOs or preferably multiple ICOs to become very successful. I mean, obviously ours, but we just started, so we have a long road. There was several ICOs that started much earlier in the process last year, early this year. And I'm looking forward for some big successes that we will really move into the new territory where people will start talking about ICOs as a proven business, and that there's a success already, so you can expect more to come. Because a lot of people in the industry and the investing community are talking about scams and talking about the fact that this ICO is bad, this ICO is bad, which one is good? So I would love to see in December, as was mentioned here, it's so far, it's almost like 20 years from now, and so I do expect that it's going to happen. I do expect that next year, this time, we'll have several ICOs, successful ICOs from the past, that will be very big projects, and people will be proud that they participated early in these projects, like people that participated in Ethereum, and it will just go from there much better.
Yeah, I would love to see a distributed app really blow up. I think that there's a huge opportunity in the consumer internet vertical. I would love to see a Facebook or a Twitter get completely blown out by a distributed app. And I think it's really possible because right now the intermediary, Facebook and Twitter, they take huge amounts of the value, they capture all the ad revenue, right? And so you can distribute that value to network participants. People will flock to the network, and then obviously the actual coin will increase over time as well. And so you'll see the fastest growing consumer internet business ever. It will be a distributed app with a token. I feel pretty confident about whether it's next year or 3 years. I don't know, but I think the opportunity is there.
Let me preface this with the fact that I'm incredibly excited about the fact that ICOs exist and that there's a lot of opportunities. I do think we will see several successes, but I think we're going to see an incredible amount of failures. There's a lot of reasons that companies fail beyond not running out of money. Founder fatigue, not finding the right product market fit, not building or not bringing it to market. I think there's a lot of reasons that companies fail. But I think that's a great thing because right now there's an incredible shortage of talent in the space. So as companies fail, that talent's going to get picked up and brought onto other projects. I think that's a really exciting thing that's going to happen. The other thing that I think is going to happen is that we're going to see companies that are later stage and unassociated with the blockchain starting to realize that this is an incredible opportunity to include the blockchain into what they're doing and also fundraise through an initial coin offering. So I think we're going to start to see more mature companies, possibly at the growth stage, funding themselves through tokens opposed to a traditional equity round. And the last thing that I would like to see is more responsible founders. People are raising incredible amounts of money because they can, but if you're raising $10 million in a pre-sale and you're SAFed through traditional investors, build a product, test the hypothesis, bring it to market, and then once you have something of substance, then do the ICO. I mean, you're not going to run out of money. You're not going to run at $10 million in a year. It takes time to develop these. So I think use those resources that you have, push the initial coin offering back so you have something of more value, and I think you'll have a better ICO market out there for the consumer.
Yeah, quite a thing will happen. One is Bitcoin either $60,000 more or $6,000 less. So it can go either way. ICO, I would say probably Definity will go ICO with $1 billion valuation, very likely. More government regulation, which creates a lot more opportunity because that will fragment the market. So Google is banned in China, so you have a Baidu. Same thing with this regulatory coming out from each country, then you have more opportunities for different kinds of people. Also, probably we'll have at least one big security problem. And millions of dollars will be lost once or twice or 3 times more. That's going to happen in 4 months again. Because as you mentioned, we are lack talent. When you don't have talent, the problem will happen. Like what's happened in Yahoo, right? When the company goes down, the good people left. They want to Google, they want to Facebook, and then security problems come up. Same thing here. So when we have lots of ICOs, people are not good enough as a security, then money get lost.
Yeah, just to really reiterate that, it's talent, it's the educated market that I'm most grateful to ICOs and the price rise for. So, developers, people in business, customers, even, I think that's the biggest one for deploying your more standard, non-big flashy light ICO projects will be that we don't have to take the customers on a big education journey. Even when they're drooling at the mouth to implement blockchain in their business, they don't know what that means. So.
Okay, who has a burning question? It's always somebody in the back. It's definitely a burning question too. I'll come back to you so you have a voice.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay.
I'm loud enough.
Okay, go ahead.
So when the regulatory dust settles, do you think there will be a path forward to crowdfund ideas in the cryptocurrency space? Not develop products, but pure ideas.
It will, because before, for ICO, you have to have a certain track record of revenue, profit, but it's a whole new world, right? With AI, all those technology, you really need to look at the people. So there will be an opportunity for quite a few top level funds to lead this effort. Right? Before you have when you go IPO, you have to be underwritten by JP Morgan, but maybe in the future you'll be underwritten by Amino Capital. So something like that. So somebody who knows the market really well, who knows technology really well, but some expert come out, they might underwrite certain ICOs. That's a very positive step.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Right, interesting question. So I think Jack mentioned permissioned blockchains, right? So question for everybody. As a founder working on an interesting idea, and I see that I think we're better off using a permissioned or private blockchain. Now that's a dilemma, right? We want to raise money one way or the other to move forward, but we don't quite want to jump onto this Ethereum thing just because that's what everybody does and that's SEO. So you, as panelists, what do you guys think about it? Like, what's the best approach for somebody like me?
I think you need to think really long and hard about the problem that you're solving and what you're trying to address. There's a bunch of different tools out there. There's permissioned private blockchains where you need to be a known validator to operate it, and you have to be a known person of the institution. So if you're doing something like healthcare, something within the healthcare industry, it's going to be permissioned private. But if you're doing something like, there's a really great company called Small Medium-Sized Business Exchange, right? And their network is private, but anybody can use it. So it's private, public, right, in that sense. So I think really long and hard about the problem that you're solving and design the solution to fit it as needed for the variables that you're trying to focus on.
I just wanted to quickly add to that one, sorry. A lot of the applications that I've been involved with will end up using multiple layers of blockchain. So you might have a private blockchain, heavily permissioned for internal use, but between participants you'll have a least permissioned system.
Okay, tokenized sort of layer.
Yeah, and the problem then is how you link them together, but there's a lot of projects and a lot of ICOs going into how we have cross-ledger transactions.
Okay, we're running out of time, but I know this gentleman over here, one of you.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Well, Michael. So ultimately, something like a currency only has value because people use it to trade things. Right now, this clearly looks like a speculative fraud. It looks like the Albanian chain letters of the early 90s. But ultimately, these tokens are going to be valuable for something. And how do you broaden the market for what these things are useful for? Now, I heard one idea about using it to sort of distribute what people do on networks, and this would be a way of sort of compensating people and what are the ideas out there that are percolating about how to use these for actual trade beyond investment in the latest ICO?
So I'll pass it down to you. I'll just be really quick with this. So a lot of times, so in order for it to not be a security, it needs to have utility. It needs to have a purpose and a use case. And a lot of times the utility is access to a given network. So for example, Golem is an electronic virtual machine. So if I try doing CGI rendering for my laptop, and I don't have enough computing power, I put it out to the Golem network, and I pay people to run the task in the Golem token. So it's necessary to be out there. I think what is going to change it from a speculative value to actually something of purpose and use that can be traded and used in the real world is having these companies actually develop and mature to the point where they're ready to be used. A lot of these companies that are furthest along within the space that have done ICOs are at best at a beta right now. So I think that we need to start bringing the products to market. Things need to start to be able to scale before we can start to use these currencies in more effective ways.
So regarding the applications, I think there are certain kind of industry actually it's gonna take on first. First is the finance industry because for traditional technology it's just so efficiency. So for example, the cross-border payments, you can transfer your Ethereum in 10 minutes. Well, every country, you don't need to get permission from the banks or governments, and by you use banks, it takes you 1 week to get the transaction done. It's just more efficient. And also the second industry, like content platform, like the project I just tracking recently, they're called Streaming. They're a blog platform. So basically, the idea is you create a blog there, you create a content, you get paid. which probably you're gonna choose media on this one. You definitely have a lot of traction because of the incentive. I think especially for those like content and loyalty, those kind of industries gonna taking off quickly as well. So that's probably gonna be our first level of a use case for the application of a blockchain.
Okay, I mean, so we have time for one more question. And you, sir.
For those of you who are purchasing tokens from the issuers or ICOs, over the past couple of months, it would appear to the outside that the market's getting more difficult for an issuer. How have your evaluation criteria changed in the last couple of months, if at all?
Two things we're doing. One, actually we are running programs because we are selling or buying always go. It's too slow. So I have a guy working 24 hours trying to buy or sell. So now we are running programs to do it automatically. Secondly, we look at team even more closely. So we not only read the white paper, because the white paper was done by other team. So we have to read the white paper really clearly and call the team. So it's a lot more work to do, but it's exciting.
We don't look at them any differently than we did any other startup. We're not going to rush in because there's a lot of people that are excited about other projects. You still have to evaluate them like they're a startup because they're at the very early stages. So team, I think, is more important now than ever because people know a lot about the technology, but they don't necessarily know the industries that they're applying it to. And so, I mean, there was one example, I won't name them, but they were trying to solve financial inclusion in Africa. Not a single team member had ever been to Africa. Like, how could you possibly try to solve a problem that you don't yet understand? And I think for what you're saying of it's getting harder for companies to raise is because there's more noise in the space. Initially, when Ethereum did it, it was very sophisticated people that understood the application of that technology. So they started participating, and then more and more started happening. People realized how efficient of a fundraising model it is. And so now all these seed stage companies, whether they need a token or not, are trying to do it, which is creating a lot of noise. So I think what ultimately is going to happen is it's going to move back from seed stage development, doing ICOs at the seed stage, more towards growth stage. So imagine if Uber was funding its growth model to get to Boston, San Francisco, LA, Houston, Austin, and Dallas, and they had a token, that would be the great time to do it because then you're getting buy-in from your future users. So I think the noise is going to push companies to build a product, create validation and traction before doing it on our end. We don't think about them any differently than we would other startups raising equity.
Does venture equity step in to take its place?
I think at the early stage, I think that it maybe not equity, I think that maybe the early stage investors move towards SAFs. But again, you put a larger delay between the SAF and the ICO. So they take that 10 million or whatever it is that they're raising, develop the product, test that hypothesis, get it in the hands, do iterations, and then do the initial coin offering at the point that they actually have something of substance for people to use immediately.
So I do have add one like very interesting facts. So I was a traditional venture capitalist before too, but I really thought a big difference with investing in ICO tokens because you basically invest in open source project. So you invest in tokens, not the teams. So like the Tezos right now have some problems with the teams, right? But still the investors have strong belief with Tezos projects. If they have very good idea, interesting idea, they got community involved, they might be taken off as well, even the founder left, just like Ethereum right now. It could automatically work if the Vitalik just go to a vacation for a year. So I think that's a little bit difference with the traditional valuate with the venture capitalist. Basically like Uber, right? If the Travis is left, it's kind of like make a huge difference with the Uber goes. So I thought that's very a difference.
All right, let's give a round of applause to these great panelists.